Hey Pokemon fans, I'm HoopsandHipHop. Have you ever wondered what could have been? Like if you had gotten that last piece of pizza from last night instead of your brother? Well, today we are looking at what could have been in the Pokemon world. These are the top 10 things cut from Pokemon games. Joining me today to help discuss this interesting topic is a guy who loves pizza and Pokemon just as much as I do, Axellian.
Hey guys, I'm Axellian, and like Hoop said, we're going to be counting down the top 10 things which were never included into the games. And remember, this is a two-part video, so be sure to check out part 2 on my own channel. And if you're here from my channel, let's get started.
Starting off the countdown at number 10, we have some unused trainer data for Archie, the leader of Team Aqua in Pokemon Sapphire. According to the data, he was planned to be battled at some point where his team consisted of a level 17 Huntail and a level 17 Sharpedo. He is also carrying 2 Super Potions. This may indicate that Archie was originally planned to be encountered earlier in the game and was intended to appear with a drastically different sort of team since he never had a Huntail at all in the final game. If the plan was to battle Archie at that much earlier in the game, I wonder how that would have affected the overall story. Probably not too much, but it's interesting to think about what could have been.
In Ruby and Sapphire, one of my favorite locations is Mount Chimney. I always thought it was really cool how the surrounding area was covered in soot, but what if I told you that Mount Chimney wasn't supposed to be a volcano, but instead a snow-covered mountain? Well, in the internal data for the games, there's a weather effect for snow. This snow effect is a rather simple and kind of incomplete set of snowflakes, but there's actually a way to activate the weather effect by modding the weather header in a ROM. The thought of this little change to one of my favorite parts of the region is more than enough to make this the number 9.
Number 8 is the plan for Sweet Honey to appear in Gen 2. The concept of using honey to attract Pokemon debuted in Diamond and Pearl, but there is dialogue within the Gen 2 games that suggests honey was going to be in Gold and Silver originally. The dialogue reads as follows. "My Pokemon is an expert at collecting sweet honey. I'll share some with you. I want to give you some sweet honey, but you have no room for it. Here you go, have some sweet honey. My little brother takes sweet honey and goes somewhere with it. I wonder what he's up to. Did you put sweet honey on a tree? What happened to it? Did you put sweet honey on a tree? It takes about a day for Pokemon to be drawn to it." It's possible that there were some type of technical limitations with this feature, and that's why it was delayed. The reason being that the headbutt feature did make it into the game, and it's quite similar to the honey feature, as both concepts involve finding Pokemon in trees. Game Freak probably really liked this idea, but they couldn't make it work, and so they replaced it with the headbutt feature because it was simpler to implement. Then, once Game Freak had the technology, they brought the idea back in Gen 4.
Our number 7 this week is a bit more well-known. In Johto, we saw the first real expansion to the Pokedex as we jumped from 151 to 251 Pokemon. However, there's a bunch of Pokemon that actually never made it into the games. For example, Kurusu and Honoguma. Kurusu is thought to have either been a pre-evolution of Seal or an alternate water starter, while Honoguma was thought to be a fire-type pre-evolution to Ursaring, and again, an alternate fire starter. Honoguma was eventually scrapped for Teddiursa and a normal typing instead. Finally, we have an unnamed Pokemon who looks very similar to Hitmontop, and could have possibly meant that Hitmontop was supposed to be in a completely separate evolutionary chain altogether.
At number 6, we have a few Pokemon that were likely meant for earlier games than they appeared in. For example, it's highly likely that Shellos and Gastrodon were meant to debut in Ruby and Sapphire instead of Diamond and Pearl. In the May 2007 issue of Nintendo Power, Junichi Masuda said, quote, "There's also a sea slug Pokemon that we weren't able to put in Ruby and Sapphire that we were able to put in this one, Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. Which sea slug Pokemon do we know from Diamond and Pearl? That's right, Shellos and Gastrodon. Further adding to this belief is that there's a back sprite existing for both Shellos and Gastrodon within the data of Diamond and Pearl. These particular back sprites have no front sprites to them, and they seem to combine the West Sea and East Sea variations of the Pokemon. It's possible this was the original form for these two Pokemon in Ruby and Sapphire before they ultimately held them back and introduced the West-East Sea concept in Gen 4. Additionally, there's evidence that suggests Tortuga was originally planned for Generation 2. An issue of a Japanese gaming magazine released in 1997 showcases a few characters from the upcoming Gold and Silver that were ultimately scrapped, including a turtle Pokemon that greatly resembles Tortuga. It's quite likely that Tortuga was originally going to debut in Gen 2, but ultimately Game Freak felt that the design needed more work and held it back until they were ready to use it in Gen 5. It's interesting to think about how long some of these Pokemon designs have truly been in existence, and what could have been had they been used when they were originally planned to. And that is it for the first part of this list. If you want to check out the second part and see what we put at number 1, head over to Axellian's channel by clicking here. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe for more videos and remixes. Until next time, I'm HoopsandHipHop and I'll smell you guys later.